who does the Portuguese translation, and they write, we see in the writings of Ananta Das Babaji that the love who does the Portuguese translation. Excuse me, the YouTube there. We see in the writings of Ananta Das Babaji that the love of the Manjaris will not make them desire to unite with Sri Krishna even in dreams. If he requests them to unite with him, then it is only an external show done as a joke. Sri Radha efforts to make them unite with Sri Radha's efforts to unite with Krishna should also be seen as a joke. Is there a corresponding Leela for the Narmasakas, like Krishna requesting them to unite with some gopi, or some gopi testing them just for fun?
No.
Okay.
No, the answer is no. Regarding the position of the Manjaris and that with regard to their romantic feelings for Krishna. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, no problem, Guru Maharaj.
Okay. This is mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita in the 8th chapter, the Madhya Lila, discussions between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Roy. Krishna's Kaviraj uses the word Saki, but he's referring to the Manjaris. And he makes a point, perhaps not as precisely, but this is the point that the Babaji is drawing on, made there. You can reference it yourself and look. Yeah, their romantic feelings for Krishna are subjugated by their feelings of servanthood towards Radha. So they have a different type of bhava. It's tadbhav, so it means they follow the bhav of their leader, which is Radharani, and seek to unite her with Krishna. So it's just like it's kind of a core nature of the Manjari Bhav. I've written about this in brief also in my introduction to Circle of Friends. There I referenced this very point that the nature of the Manjari Bhav is such, with a footnote I believe, that some have argued that in a couple of places in some of the Leela Granthas, the Goswamis, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's Krishna Bhavanamrita, and maybe Jiva Goswami's Madhava Mahotsava, maybe another reference, that this is sometimes overridden, and the Manjaris have an intimate relationship with Krishna, but it contradicts the very core idea of the Manjari Bhav, and those sections should be taken as humorous only, if you will. There's nothing in them, those references, that make a determinate statement, to contradict this core idea. So far with Manjari Bhav, but in the Narmasakas, the nature of the Narmasakas bhava in this regard is that Rupa Goswami refers to it as Saki Bhav. Jiva Goswami explains that their maleness, which this would mean with regard to affinity for the opposite sex, is subdued, which enables them to participate fully in those leelas, in which they assist Krishna and the gopis in their rendezvous, and they have no attraction for the gopis themselves. Of course, in general, of course, that would be out of place anyway, because the center of love for everyone, for rasa, for everyone in Braj is Krishna. Krishna is the object of love for everyone. Mm. And if they should have love for one another, which they do, that is considered to be a sanchari bhav, which augments their sthayi bhav. So, but you're asking about joking with regard to the namasakas. There's no instance of that has been described, and I think that the point made by Rupa Goswami, through which he classifies them as experiencing at that time in those leelas Saki Bhav, so they don't have a male sensibilities with regard to the ladies involved, the young girls, the adolescents, the gopis. So no, there's no joking in that regard, and it would be very different, of course, than Krishna joking with the Manjari about wanting to have an affair with her. The two things are just not parallel. Keep Krishna joking with Dhammasaka about wanting to have an affair with a gopi. That's a whole different concept. So no. The answer is no. What else? Thank you for the question.
Thanks, Guru Maharaj. So the next question is from Krishna Kanaya, and she says, Hare Krishna, dear Guru Maharaj. I hope you are doing well. It was eye-opening. It was eye-opening to me when you once said that the world doesn't have any problems, but the world itself is the problem. My question in this regard is about appealing to Krishna about the ill effects and shattering heartbreak of Kali Yuga. So she has two questions, so I'll just read the first for now. What really is the use of my prayer for peace and global pain relief when war, quarrel, and anxiety are predicted in Shastra? It's not a hopeful prospect. So do I keep praying for the upliftment of planet Earth if I actually don't believe that it will happen for the most part? Is prayer then only a performative token for my own purification and development of compassion instead of actually bringing about change for others?
Well, a couple of things come to mind. When we say that the world is the problem, of course, we are referring to the fact that the word world here, is a perception on the part of the jiva, which is this distorted perception, if you will. So to counter that, for example, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says somewhere, I forget where, that Vishwam Purnam Sukhayate, that the world is an abode of happiness. So look, from a fully Krishna conscious point of view, the world is an abode of happiness. But from a selfish point of view, which is the material point of view, then it becomes the problem. But it means the angle of vision that we have. So the goddess, if you will, of the world has the unfortunate task of being negative impetus. She appears as negative impetus for those who have turned away, if you will, or are turned away from Bhagawan, who she is also a servant of, and so she, we talk about it poetically like this. She dishes out the punishment, but it's a way only of affording negative impetus. So that's one thing. So as we progress, of course, we can look at, we hopefully see the world a little differently, instead of it being a problem, as the problem of our own consciousness starts to change. But that said, that world will go on in many other minds, right? In a collective of material minds, and the problems would be illusory, but felt as real nonetheless for them. So today in the world, there are all kinds of problems. I mean, so And Kali Yuga is, is thought to be a time of excuse me, of difficulty, problems, and so forth. So, to your question about prayers for peace, for the uplifting of the world, and so forth, I think these are natural feelings for devotees who live in the world. We live in the world. Mm. I've compared it to, it can be compared to a dream. I've compared to sadhaka's life, as much as one is actually engaged in sadhana, it becomes a lucid dream in which you can bring about changes. Mm. If you're awake in your dream to the fact that you're dreaming, then I think that's the basis of lucid dreaming. Then you may have some ability to steer what happens in the dream. It's possible. So I think that we have to see ourselves as sadhakas in pursuits of siddha, perfection, and deal realistically at the same time with the world we're in, with a higher vision. So relative to our conditioning, we may feel compelled to participate in relative functions, thoughts for improving the world, prayers for improving the world. We find them even in great souls voicing such at times, greater than ourselves, let's say. But as I say, giving an example of the lucid dream without losing sight of who you are and what the nature of the world is, and you're never going to end the material world. It's a reality. It's an aspect of. It's kind of the shadow of the light of reality. So it is going to go on. Is there any place? This is kind of your question for trying to bring about some relative improvement. Of course, there is. In our everyday lives, there is personally. In a larger scale, it may even become such. And it may depend how your own life as a sadhaka may be affected. That you may have to do something in the world, pray for something, or work towards some change in the world that may greater facilitate your and others' ability to practice. Let's say you had a political regime that was anti-religious practice or anti-certain religious practices. And should it flourish, your practice and ability to do so would have to go underground and be illegal and so forth. Well, then certainly going to react to that, and you're going to want to bring about a change, relatively speaking. So we have to fully function in the world, and know at the same time, at a larger scale, that it is as you described it, and that's going to go on forever. Should we try to should we try to make the kingdom of God on earth? We should try. That will be good for us, and there may be some progress in that too. There might be some, relatively speaking, it shouldn't go unanswered or without change. Certainly, you can change in your own particular individual circumstances. So why not on a broader scale? So, but not to it kind of depends where a devotee's at in his or her progress too. But there's certainly a place for that. But first, you speak to it about it with regard to prayer. You want to pray for the world to become a better place. That's a good idea. I hope it does. Yeah, it's not really. It's very disconcerting right now in many respects. And again, it's probably the case at all times. When I was young, I mean, there were young people who were the future of the country who were dropping out, tuning in, turning on, and dropping out, as they used to say. It must have been very disconcerting to the elders, and major protests against the war and so forth. So many changes. Um, um, and so what I'm saying by that is every time may seem like the worst time for those who are in it at the time, but then, step back from it, relatively speaking. Sometimes are better, relatively speaking, better than others. And we can play a role in bettering the world. And we should try to, in some respects, while giving full attention to bringing about a solution entirely to the problem by way of changing our angle of vision. I hope that helps.
Thanks, Guru Maharaj. And she has a second part there connected that she asks, why did Krishna create the different yugas in the first place? Is it to bring out, I can only guess, the rasa of chivalry, as in, let's fight the darkness of Kali Yuga, let's fight for Krishna and our own Krishna consciousness? Thank you for addressing my doubts and thoughts on these apparently increasing troublesome times we're living in.
Well, I don't look at it like Krishna created the yugas. Yugas are a concept that's relative to cyclical time compared to linear time, and they're described in different ways in different Puranas with regard to their length and influence and so on and so forth. We draw on the Bhagavad Purana, of course, but I don't quite look at it like Krishna created yugas, but there are times. Time has movement, and the the movement pertains to their quality. I would say there are qualities to time. There's qualities to time. So some periods of time have better qualities. Some periods of time have worse qualities, and in a cycle goes around. I mean, did Krishna create the seasons? I mean, you could say yes, he creates everything in one sense. In another sense, he doesn't create anything because we don't have an ex nihilo, idea. Out of nothing, something manifests. But so the Maya Shakti happens to be, part of reality. Why is there God? Why is there anything? And you can obviously burn your head out on such questions. Why is there anything? Some things we can ask why about. Some things we just have to look at the how of. Okay, you can say, why is there Maya Shakti? We really can't say why. We can say, well, I could give an analogy, if I wanted to compare God to a fire, well, a fire has heat and light, then it has sparks. Some stay in it, some go out, and it has smoke. Smoke doesn't exist. Fire has smoke as much as smoke cannot exist without fire. So, it's like dependent entity. So, of course, you could give a reason why there's smoke and why there's sparks scientifically and so forth, but I'm just using an analogy. So, why is there a Maya Shakti? We just look and see we see that there is this influence that's described in the scriptures that it has over people. We see that it has an influence over us, and that it can be overcome. And sometimes we overcome it, and we see that. So we just deal with the how of it, that does exist, and here's how to deal with it. Why it exists, you can ask the same question, why does God exist? This is part of God. So he has innumerable Shaktis, by which so many things are happening. It's just the nature of being, the nature of reality. And so with regard to the material world, it comes and goes, it expands and contracts, and so forth. And as it expands, it picks up where it left off in its previous contractions with regard to the karma of the living beings that make it go around. They again come out and again set the world in motion and pick up where they karmically left off. And So you've got this larger cycle, and within the material world, and there are cycles. There are cycles of the seasons, for example. So why did Krishna create winter, spring, summer, and fall? I don't look at it like he created it. Similar with the yuga cycles, I don't look at it like created. It's just the nature of what happens when the Maya Shakti and the Jiva Shakti, when the Jiva Shakti, I should say, uh, uh, comes in touch with the Maya Shakti and in its unmanifest state and causes it to manifest, and so the whole thing happens. So again, I don't look at it like, why did Krishna do this? But I mean, you're looking for some underlying reason as to, like, is there a silver lining to Kali Yuga? And the scriptures does talk about a silver lining to the scriptures. It says that as bad as the time is, as easy as it is to become Krishna conscious. So in times that were better, the idea is, the theory is, means to attain liberation were more difficult. Kali Yuga, people are less qualified, and the means, therefore, is very easy. Therefore, there's a famous verse, Kalir Sabhajantyaya Gunaga Salavagina, Yaptasam Kirtanina Sarvasvata something, I forget. It means that the gods, or maybe the Satya Yuga people, they pray to take birth in Kali Yuga. As bad of a time is as good of a time as it is, from their vantage point, because, oh my gosh, it's so easy to attain liberation, to attain praying. Just chant the name of holy name. That is the whole practice in and of itself. Goodness, I don't have to practice long austerities and so on. For example, in contrast. Those are some of my thoughts on the, let's say, kind of the silver lining of Kali Yuga that you were looking for.
Thanks very much. Harijan has a follow-up for this question.
That was Guru Maharaj.
Hmm.
I want to ask, like Krishna, can I mention this Virya Rasa? And you also mentioned in this world this like compassion of the Krishna. So I want to ask, like, about the position of these, like, secondary rasas, and it seems like that this world is very much like connected to them, like they become like prominent. Is that like correct vision? Or?
Well, I mean, you're talking about a kind of a material expression of a bhakti rasa, like chivalry and so forth. But I mean, why would you think that the secondary rasas, or the shell, let us say, or the material representation of the secondary rasas, is more prominent than the primary ones? I mean, the whole world's driven by romantic love, parental love, friendly love, and that's what's really running the world, so to speak, right? Making it go round. No matter what you're doing, how busy you are, if you hear that your loved one, a daughter, son, as may be the case, friend, lover, is in trouble, you drop everything and go. So there's a kind of a material reflection, if you will, of basic process outlined by Rupa Goswami. And of course, prior to Rupa Goswami, the rasa theory in India was all, in reference to this world, the aesthetic feelings of the world, and analyzing them and so forth. And largely it was thought that through these aesthetic feelings, for example, that you get, for example, by watching a drama, you get displaced from where you are. And it's akin to Brahman, was kind of an idea. But Rupa Goswami has given a very forceful and profound and direct explanation of bhakti rasa. And the primary as well as secondary rasas have their material manifestation. So I don't know why maybe I'm misunderstanding your question, but I don't know why you would give precedence to the secondary rasas. It would seem to me that they're secondary here as well as they manifest compared to the primary rasas. But I may have misunderstood your question.
I just heard some, I think it was, I read somewhere that actually they become kind of like more prominent, those rasas, because like the world is based on fear and also like the like those there are like fear is there always maybe, but those other relationships like which are primary are kind of like temporary only, they don't last too long.
Well, I guess you could look at it. That's another way of looking at it. That fear pervades the entirety of material existence. You could say that. But everybody's always fearful, but everybody's always seeking love also, directly or indirectly. But yeah, so those are my thoughts on that. Rupa Goswami or Jiva Goswami said that the only real rasa in the material world is what is it? Vibhatsa. Vibhatsa means disgust. Because if you try to taste in material life, through your senses in connection with sense objects, the net result ultimately of continuing to do that is disgust. So I've given an example before. Let's take your favorite song. You got your favorite song, you want to hear it a few times? Let's put you in a room and make you hear it 1,000 times. You'll want to vomit every time that thing comes on. You'll just be disgusted by it. So he said, that's real. That's the real rasa of the world. That's a secondary rasa. So that's another way of looking at it. All right, good enough. What else?
The next question's from Chittahari.
Oh, it's all right.
Jai Guru Maharaj, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. I was reading through Harinam Chintamani again, and in the later section of the book, Thakur Bhaktivinoda is talking about the transition from smarandash to apandash, those technical terms where you ascend through the stages of bhakti. And he says, I'll just quote a short passage from which my question comes. He says, from the samadhi level of smarandasha, the crucial ascension to apandasha of the stage of application takes place. For one who is not adept, elevation through the 5 stages of smarandasha to apandasha may require many yugas of effort. For a dexterous sadhaka, reaching apandasha is accomplished quickly. End quote. So my question is, what's the crucial distinction here between an adept and non-adept practitioner?
Well, I would say previous lives. So someone may appear in a world and having attained a higher stage in the previous life, and then they'll appear in the world and some negative residue will pass and they take up bhakti and they quickly pass through the lower stages and come to where they left off. And if where they left off was higher along, then they'll seem to progress more quickly. They will like hit the ground running, so to speak. And we see that, even amongst different sadhakas. So I think that's the way I would look at that. Does that help?
Yes. So basically what you're saying then is the ability to actually practice smaran in a given life depends on one's background. In other words, if someone doesn't have a lot of background, they come into bhakti, they get initiated, they do the sadhana, but they may never in that lifetime be able to actually do like Leela Smaranam of the Ashtakali Leela or any of that. They're better off focusing on more preliminary things.
Yeah, like the honest, one has to engage according to one's adhikar. I mean, when he says dexterous, he doesn't mean, okay, there's some people know how to do it better than others, you know, and they're at the same stage, but they know how to do it better. That might be a little misleading of an understanding of what he's saying, because you know you can't just pretend to be nishta. You know?
Sure.
And so Bhaktivinoda Thakura makes a very good point in this regard. He says that you know trying to adopt internal meditative practices before one actually has attained ruchi or asakti is futile, because there's the taste isn't there and you won't be able to maintain it. For some while you may think, oh, I left this group, I've gone to that group, now I've got my Siddha Pranali, everything's great, but you know, you haven't changed at all, and who knows what information you receive, whether it's even accurate. But then you try to do practices that are beyond your capacity, and they can only be sustained by taste. Earlier practice is going to be sustained by intelligence, right?
Yes.
I understand this is wise, it's the right thing to do. I become convinced of that. And maybe have a little experience too, of course. You know, I get some bliss sometimes, some shadow of bhava, what it's about, and I weep and I know thereby, but it doesn't stay. So, but I in that stage, you know, you're in an anishta bhajana kriya. You're making effort is significant there. You're making a strong effort to get grace, and it's wise to do so. And you're holding off, you know, other influences of some scars, and so trying to distance yourself from, trying to see them as yourself as the subject, those as objects that you know you can dispense of with, and so forth. But you know, then to make smaranam, that same type of effort, it doesn't work like that. It requires a pure heart. So as one comes to nishta, then taste will be, then mind will be set aside, the spiritual intelligence will guide, and then ruchi, even ruchi, the spiritual intelligence is operative. Asakti it entirely overwhelmed. So, so without a taste for those things, you know, people run to Vrindavan. I think I'm going to renounce, and they go live at Radhakunda somewhere. You know, it lasts a couple of years, you know, and I've seen that. And so many of my, not so many, but some of my godbrothers who thought grass was greener elsewhere, and they didn't, you know, the taste wasn't there. It didn't allow them to continue. So yeah, it should be a, you know, meditation itself is arising out of the purification that results from chanting.
Right. Well, I guess my confusion came about from, because it's, at least the way Bhaktivinoda wrote it, it sounds like a person who's qualified to practice smaran would, they'd already be adept, but obviously not.
I don't understand. If somebody's qualified, they're not adept.
I mean, well, it was sounding to me, it was sounding like they're
qualified
doing,
but not adept.
right. They're doing smaran, but they might, you know, if they're qualified for smaran, then why, you know, what would be holding them from ascending to the higher stages of that, you know, Dhruvana, Smriti, and Samadhi, and all of
Nothing.
that?
Yeah, nothing. I mean, you can get some instructions and so forth, you know, but no, nothing would be holding you back. All right, thank you for the question.
Yes.
Guru Maharaj, can I ask a follow-up?
Yeah.
So I just wanted to confirm that I understood this right, because Bhaktivinoda was saying that people who are not dexterous in sadhana will spend yugas in, you know, in basically anishta bhajan. And you said that the defining factor for dexterity is that it's lifetimes of practice. So that seems to logically then follow that everybody is going to spend yugas in anishta bhajan.
Well, that could be, or it could be if he's talking. You know, maybe I didn't. You know, I mean, we were talking about Lila Smarnam, right? So Lila Smarnam is not something that is one has qualification for in the stage of Anishta Bhajana Kriya. So what I was saying is that one does need to pay attention and ardently practice in Anishta Bhajana Kriya to come out of it. So it's possible what Bhaktivinoda Thakura is saying that if you don't, pay attention and really give of yourself, the Maharaj said, do or die in Anishta, is the stage of anartha, bhajana kriya, to come to an artha vritti, to come from anishta to nishta. If you don't make the effort there, then it's going to take that much longer. And if you pay much attention there and you dexterously practice and so forth, then you will proceed faster. I mean, that makes sense. But with regard to being fit for practice for Lila Smarnam, that's the qualification is purification. Does that help? Does that make more sense?
Yeah, sort of. But I guess I'll maybe talk to you about it later because I have more questions, but it might be too much right now.
Okay.
Thank you.
So the next question is from Gayatri. And she says, Dear Guru Maharaj, Dandavat Pranams. I have a friend who 2 years ago completely disregarded their guru's instructions, did exactly what they had been suggested not to do, and was shunned by the community as a result of their actions. Internally, and maybe even verbally, they felt dislike towards their guru for not understanding their nature, for giving so-called improper advice, and for allowing the critique and gossip to continue. The last 2 years, they have treaded their own path, reclaimed their birth name, stopped chanting, and cut contact with their guru. Now they are returning to a place of wanting to honor the path of bhakti, asking to be called by their initiated name again, and wanting to mend wounds, although not necessarily follow their previous guru as their one and only guru, but rather just respect and appreciate them as a guru of many. I'm curious to know what to make of this. Does the mantra, once given to disciple by guru, have the same weight after having rejected that guru? Does it really align with our traditions to reclaim or even keep one's spiritual name given by guru after rejecting him or her? Can one even reconcile and mend the offenses made by rejecting and speaking less than nicely about one's guru? Please shed light on this matter. Your servant, Gayatri.
Well, I don't know, the details of all the situation, but I mean, in principle, one could reject one's guru for good reasons because the guru is, not fit. Let's say for bad reasons, or for the wrong reasons, one rejects the guru, then that is an offense. Can one overcome offenses? Yes, of course. Can one make amends for offenses? And yes. So, but I think that it would be incumbent upon devotees in that situation to approach the guru and make amends. At the same time, they're free to come under the guidance of a Siksha Guru, who maybe whose teaching they relate with more or better, and proceed. It's rather, it's hard to, you don't know all the details of the circumstance, but I mean, I'd say in general, that whatever offense you made, you can overcome. You can be repentant of that if you recognize you made a mistake and rectify it. Certainly, the guru would be welcome that and bless you And you could say, given, the circumstances and so forth, what has happened to me. In the meantime, I started hearing from so-and-so over there, and it revived my feelings, and I'd like to proceed. And I honor you for, what you've given me, and I would like to take Siksha, something to that effect. And certainly the Guru would give his blessings, I would imagine, to that. I don't see why not. I don't know if I answered your question, but that's what comes to mind. If there's further thoughts on that I haven't addressed, then feel free to express them.
No, it's a very nice explanation, Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much. Yeah,
Okay.
of course, I don't want to, say too much because I don't know if someone maybe knows this person, it's private, but yeah, it wasn't so much that the Guru had acted improper or anything like that. It's more so just this person had this friend of mine just I guess weren't really happy about the instructions that'd been given, or they couldn't digest the instructions maybe, and they just wanted to do their own thing, and that kind of just went as a catalyst into them spiraling further and further away. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So the next question is from Ramakeli, and she says, Pranams, dear Guru Maharaj. Could you please explain how to harmonize the Bhagavatam's statement that one living being is food for another with Srila Sridhara Maharaja's statement that the environment is friendly? Both refer, in a sense, to the outside world, and I understand that our angle of vision is the key to feel safe in an unsafe world. Yet I would be happy to hear your thoughts and guidance on this. Thank you.
Well, it's a statement from the Bhagavatam, one living being is food for another. I think that's fairly obvious. You can open your eyes and see that, right? That one living being is food for another. That's not a very friendly place. So to say that the world is friendly, the environment is friendly, seems to be a contradiction. But yes, Sridhar Maharaj is talking about changing one's angle of vision, and as a sadhaka, practitioner, one realizes that if there are karmic implications to their life that are, the plug for the perpetuation of which has been pulled out, but the fan, if you will, of that is still going around, and so those effects, karmic residue, really something that they have to tolerate, deal with in their practitioner's life without plugging back in, right? And then Sridhar Maharaj meant to say that he's poetically rendering a verse from Brahma's prayers in the Bhagavatam, Tattenu kampam susanikshana ujani vatnakritam vipakam vidvadvatu bhiriram namaste jivetayo muktipade sadhaka. The environment is friendly. So it's speaking about the life of a sadhaka, how to look at the karmic reactions that are dissipating, right? But showing themselves nonetheless. And he's basically saying that, well, if I don't plug back into them, they're dissipating, they're going away. Whatever is coming to it that appears to be in opposition to me, if I don't plug into it, if you will, it retires itself, and my path is that much freer. Now, this is a very high statement. It said one can do that, then they become the heir to the kingdom of God, so that they'll attain their ideal. It's not something everybody can do from stage one, but it's an ideal. It's a higher form of tolerance in which tolerance becomes seeing that I'm in a friendly environment. This opposition is friendly to me. It's taking away, and it's coming to take away and finish itself off. The karmic residue and so forth. But one has to be in a strong position to be able to respond to things like that. We should know it and respond, to some extent to some things and so forth. But and tolerance, we're called on to exercise, but this higher stage of tolerance, I don't think it can be entirely imitated, and to imitate it would be false. But we try. Um, um, so now I'm not sure if I answered the question entirely. Was there anything else to it?
No, she said seems satisfied.
Okay, well, that time's up now. I'm done. A little tired here. I'm gonna figure my situation out here without the internet, without driving up here to the gate and getting on the phone. So Chandramukhi, I think you're there. You could contact the internet company and to ask if it's their problem or if it's ours here. And if it's ours here, maybe I have to have them come out and repair it. I'm sure I may have some ideas. I don't know. But I'm going to be probably largely out of contact here. But do send me a message one way or the other, and maybe I'll check in later on in the day. So, okay, I don't want to burden everybody with my situation. Thank you for the calls, for the questions. I look forward to being with you again next week.
Chandramukhi said she will do as well, Guru Maharaj, so she's on it.
Okay, Hari.
Srila Guru Maharaj ki jai.
Jai.
So yeah, thanks everybody, and we'll see how the internet situation works out. Hopefully we'll get to see Guru Maharaj next week, but let's see. Yeah, those still who have questions, as you know, you'll be first next week, and we'll see.
Sounds like Guru Maharaj is back in the States then.
No, he's in Madhuvan, Vijay.
Oh,
So that
I
yeah,
see. Okay.
in Costa Rica. So the internet,
Yeah,
I guess, is a bit
makes
flaky
sense.
at the moment. So he went up on his cell phone. Yeah, I think he
Thank
said
you.
he had to drive up somewhere. Okay, take care. Haribol.